Hi everybody, it is time to tune in for our online section of ECED 190 since we won't be able to meet this Friday, February 26th. So here are just some reminders and due dates. Please turn in your portfolio pages on Canvas as soon as they are done, and this term can be a little bit confusing for those of you that have been in the program for a while. These portfolio pages were the ones that we created about children, not the ones that we'll do at the end of the quarter that have to do about the course. So please get those turned in as soon as you have them done. About 5 of you have turned them in already. The time and event samples are due March 4th, but may be turned in as late as March 11th without penalty. Your journals that you've been collecting all quarter are also due March 11th. Your portfolio slides and the special project will be due on March 18th. This is an extended deadline since we won't meet February 26th or March 4th. We won't see each other again until March 11th, and I want to have time face-to-face to be able to answer any questions and make sure everyone is feeling all right about those two assignments. Your final paperwork must be uploaded by March 18th. This is really important. To pass the class, you have to have that final paperwork uploaded in Canvas by that date. And that includes the documentation of your hours and the evaluation form completed by your host or supervisor. If you happen to be the supervisor, you may need to find someone to help you fill out that form. So for example, if you're working at a center and you're the director and you happen to do your observation in one of your preschool rooms, you may ask someone, maybe a program supervisor or an assistant director, to fill out the evaluation. And if that's a problem, let me know and we can work something out. All right, let's get to this week's content. So we're going to look at 3 different time and event sample examples. The first one is an ABC event sample, and the A stands for antecedent, the B stands for behavior, and the C stands for consequence. So this is really to check for what's happening before a specific behavior that's happening with frequency, what's happening before and what's happening after, so that a teacher can identify the root of the problem or the function of the behavior. This one's really targeted towards children who need extra guidance support. So I gave it just a short example, and of course you could see I didn't fill in the top of the form, I just filled in the ABC part. The teacher gave children 5-minute warning before transition to cleanup from free choice. This particular child, every time that there's a 5-minute warning called, begins crying, knocked over the blocks or whatever toys they were playing with. They also refuse to clean up when the teacher calls for cleanup time. And then the consequence, this is where sometimes the consequence means a logical or a natural consequence, but sometimes it also means a maintaining consequence, and I'll tell you what that means. So in this example, the child ends up crying throughout the entire time of cleanup, and this maintaining consequence, because of the crying, the child does not clean up at all and someone else does it for them. And the child has either learned that with this behavior, crying during cleanup time, I know that someone else is going to clean up for me and I'm off the hook. And so that's a maintaining consequence. So why a child maybe persists or frequently uses the same behavior, because it's working for them. So that's a maintaining consequence. So this type of event sample is really helpful when you have a specific behavior that you are trying to get to the root of and you are trying to resolve. This allows you to really focus on what is happening right before, what is happening right after, and then trying to find a solution to that behavior or a way to help that child work through that behavior. The next sample is called an event sample, and this really focuses on the teacher's interactions with the students. And you can see that you use this in a way where you make a slash mark each time you see these behaviors occurring. So there's a target student, and the teacher interaction with the student behaving appropriately, you would mark. Teacher interaction with the student behaving inappropriately, you would place your marks, and then you would determine a formula, number of positives versus number of negatives. And then there's a comparison student or a control student to see, is this really an issue of the teacher paying either too much positive attention or negative attention to a child? I guess you can't give too much positive attention, so I'll take that back. Or is the teacher evenly distributing this attention to children? Or maybe is there a lack of attention? So this is really to be used by an outside observer who might be giving a teacher specific feedback about their performance and interactions with children. And this last sample is a time sample, and this one is actually used to see the frequency of events over time and specifically pays attention to activities that are participated in the most. So you would watch the children, and every 10 minutes you would check or put a tally in the box where you saw best describing children's activities. So if you notice that the children were gravitating towards blocks, or maybe they were gravitating towards manipulatives, you could track that movement over time, and then eventually after an hour's time, and if you did this over the period of a week, you could see which activities the children gravitate towards and which ones maybe you might need to change up a little bit to gain new interest. And if you notice a frequency of children watching or wandering, that's your cue to let you know that you need to be supporting children become engaged in different activities. Some watching specifically is really typical and okay for many children who are maybe just emerging with their social development, or maybe they're English language learners and are watching and waiting for a play script to happen. So watching isn't necessarily a sign or indicator that a child is bored or disinterested. It could just be a sign that the child is waiting for their right moment to engage. Wandering, however, is a sign that children are bored and or cannot make up their minds about what to do. And this could be because the materials and activities in the classroom are too high of a level or not appropriate developmentally, or they're too low or they're disinteresting. So that's a clue, like maybe it's time to change up the items that are in the classroom. So this one can be used over an hour's time to see the frequency of activities, or it could be used 1 hour every day for a week to see if maybe there's something you need to change up in the classroom. So these are the assignment explanations. You will upload either a time sample or an event sample, you have a choice, to Canvas, along with a 1-paragraph reflection on what you learned from the observation. So if you're going to do the event sample or the time sample, just remember their specific purpose. One is really looking at the teacher's frequency of interactions. Is the teacher noticing children at the right times, or is there a lack of attention? And then the other one is really to focus on the use of materials, interest in the classroom, and interest in the different classroom centers. Be thinking about how you would best use this information when you are planning for children, or if you're talking to teachers about how we best support children in the classroom. Again, you need to turn this assignment in to Canvas no later than March 11th. And please, please reach out if you have any questions. All right, here are some reminders. Your special project is due at the end of the quarter. Please do not wait until the last week to start this assignment. I know that we talked about this several weeks ago, and some of you have made great progress in accomplishing this assessment tool. Please be sure that you read the assignment description and that you know exactly what is expected. You are to complete about 50% of the objectives in your TS Gold assessment portfolio on the child that you are observing. And this means that you need at least one of the objectives in each of the 9 areas, 8 if you're not doing English language acquisition, at least one in each of those areas, along with half the booklet completed. You may write anecdotal notes. You may create checklists. You could use a time or event sample. Just be thinking about the evidence that you have to back up the scores that you rate for children. If you choose to write an anecdotal, you may write those right inside that assessment booklet on the corresponding pages. That's the best way to keep track of those anecdotal records. If you choose to do a checklist, you may also just attach that right to that page if you'd like. Next week, I will present a narrated PowerPoint on how to create the portfolio slides, which is the common assignment in all ECE classes. So stay tuned. So next week we won't meet. Instead, I will do another narrated PowerPoint presentation that just describes the last of the assignments and just offer reminders about what's coming up. Have a great week. Let me know if you have any questions about the time and event samples. You need to do both of them, but you're just going to turn one in with a 1-paragraph reflection on how that went. All right, and safe travels to our friends that are traveling across the country this week. I can't wait to hear about your trip. All right, I'll talk to you later. See you in class on March 11th.